Today's subtopic is India-Pakistan conflicts. As promised to you in the previous video, I will be trying my hands on Loom software. Um, Even I saw some spelling mistakes were made while writing in a hurry, so I think this is much easier for you considering my handwriting also. So this will be more decipherable if you see Indian-Pakistan conflicts. You will be able to make notes as I made this PowerPoint presentation. Maybe some points you can note down, and I will try to just mark it uh, with this pen, so it will be easier for you to. Anyhow, we start with our subtopic India-Pakistan conflicts. As you know that India and Pakistan they got independence from Britain, and the reason why we had this most of the conflicts, definitely most of them were only minor border skirmishes, but still we had uh, kind of some disputes with Pakistan that were major, and I'm going to discuss only four major disputes over here: 1947, 48, 1965, 1971, and definitely the Kargil War, isn't it? So this four disputes we can discuss, and as far as skirmishes are concerned, I don't know. By the time you go for the examination, we can have many, and you can definitely give those as examples. So as we already discussed, end of British rule and India and Pakistan were partitioned majorly because of the reason being religion, and the seats were sown by British policy of divide and rule. We already discussed even while discussing Sri Lankan ethnic conflict, where even same policy was implemented by Britishers divide and rule policy. Over here also, whether it is 1905 communal electorate or 1919, 1935, and so on. So they also had the like same communal representation given to minorities in India, so that India being a huge population can be divided into different sects, and it will be easier for Britishers to extend their rule. So during the partition, and you know that it was the um biggest deluge of refugees cross border in 1947-48, and when they were moving from one border to another border, and that led to lot many riots and violence that you can see over here. And here there is nothing to actually note down for one marker, but maybe as I told you for the question India and Pakistan conflict, you can give maybe it can help you in writing six marker. And please try to understand this subtopic is different from the other subtopics that we have already dealt with in the same chapter, whether it is Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and so on. Over here, we are talking about the relation between India and Pakistan, not actually about one individual South Asian country. So, because in South Asia, India and Pakistan being the major stakeholders, their relation will define whether SARC will be a success or not. So, if we have already discussed about that, like it is the most disintegrated and the least integrated organization in the world. The reason being the conflict between India and Pakistan. So that is why this topic becomes quite important for you as far as board examination is concerned, and also for the international politics there, because both are nuclear carrying nations, and they do have the nuclear power to actually cause such destruction. We already talked about MAD, mutually assured destruction. So that can actually destroy the whole economy of South Asia. So that's why they become so significant. That's why Russia and USA play an important role in South Asia, not only because of Indian Ocean. So this is the first war I was talking about, 1947-48. It is also known as First Kashmiri War or First Kashmir War. So it was also one of the princely states, Jammu and Kashmir. And even though there was a division of around 565 princely states between India and Pakistan, as the option given by British India, they have the choice to join either India or Pakistan. So other provinces never had some problem, but some provinces like Jammu and Kashmir and definitely Hyderabad, uh, there was some conflict between India and Pakistan. So Jammu and Kashmir, which Pakistan from the very beginning thought it's its natural territory. The reason you know that majority of them are Muslims, and Pakistan thought it should come to Pakistan, but it not to be, and it came to India, and Pakistan sent this Pashtun tribals over there, and even some soldiers were there in the guise of different tribals, and they tried to invade Jammu and Kashmir. By that time, Maharaja Hari Singh, the name is not mentioned over here. This you can just somehow, if you're making the notes, Maharaja Hari Singh, Harisingh. So Maharaja Hari Singh asked for or requested for India's assistance in its fight against this tribal Pashtun like group from Pakistan that they actually infiltrated into India. So most of the conflict that we had with Pakistan was due to insurgency, because Pakistan never wants a full-fledged war with India, and it never thought in 1947-48 there will be a full-fledged war. It thought it can easily incur into Jammu and Kashmir and it can invade it. But they never knew Raja Hari Singh. He will sign instrument of accession with India, and that is, I think, the major reason was Sardar Patel. He asked Hari Singh to sign instrument of accession if they need help from India. So they signed the treaty, and India uh, sent its army, as you can see over here. Okay, so there was a war and between India and Pakistan, which officially ended as it is given over here, January 1st, 1949, and it was kind of a stalemate. Though United Nations acted as the mediator over here, because they never wanted it to be escalated, neither USA or erstwhile USSR. So they forced India and Pakistan, and they signed this agreement, ceasefire agreement, that actually formalized in after 1965 war into a line of control that we are having right now with Pakistan. So that was a ceasefire, and it ended within a few months. You can see that 1947 it started almost towards the end of 1948. So this is don't think it went on for 2 years, because actually United Nations intervened and it stopped much earlier, but they signed this treaty on January 1st, 1949. That's the ceasefire. So that was the end of this first Kashmir war between India and Pakistan. And one controversial provision was that India should go for a referendum of Jammu and Kashmir. That India never agreed, because one of the provision was Pakistan and India should withdraw their army, like whatever be the previous frontier. But neither Pakistan agreed, and uh, even India refused to withdraw its army, and even India did not conduct any referendum till now in Jammu and Kashmir. One of the reasons which is used by the leaders in Jammu and Kashmir from either side. I hope you know that one third of the Kashmir is with Pakistan, that Balochistan area and Ajad Kashmir. So they are controlling, and India is almost in control of other part, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So India never executed this referendum as requested by United Nations. And you should understand this conflict between India and Pakistan is not actually about, like, it can also be just to, um, as we discussed earlier, to emotionally charge their elections. So most of the times, politicians use it as an issue, whether it is an issue or not. This is the way they win elections on either side of the borders. So that is why it is still a kind of a stalemate between India and Pakistan, and SARC is a failure because of the major stakeholders are at conflict. So it's the first war, and I hope you must have noted down some important points over here. So we, as I already told you, Pakistan controls roughly one third, that is Ajad Kashmir, that is Balochistan area, and if I'm not wrong, Gilgit and Balochistan, and India is controlling Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And both sides call it an occupied territory for their opponent. India calls it Pakistan occupied Kashmir, and Pakistan calls it India occupied Kashmir. So we go for the next war, 1965, and I hope you remember. I In one of the videos I wrote Gibraltar, Operation Gibraltar. That was actually administered by Pakistan. So I think this was during no, when we were discussing about Bangladesh crisis, 1971. The reason I wrote was, whatever happened in 1971, it was felt like it was kind of a revenge taken by Indira Gandhi, what Pakistan tried in 1947 and 1965. So Pakistan had this Operation Gibraltar, Gibraltar, to completely cut off Jammu and Kashmir from India. So even though this conflict started in Rann of Kutch, that is a part of Gujarat, that is another border with Pakistan, but it escalated into a bigger war, and even Pakistan infiltrated its soldiers in the border of Jammu and Kashmir. So what I was mentioning before, so Operation Gibraltar, we started with Operation Searchlight, where many Bengalis were killed by Pakistani army, and when I'm talking 1971, isn't it? We talked about how Pakistani army and Western Pakistan was dominating and exploiting the East Pakistan. And one of the operation at that time was Operation Searchlight, where they killed so many Bengalis. So they were targeting, isolating Bengalis and killing them. So 1965, Pakistan had this Operation Gibraltar, and when I read about, when I read some books of Indian writers and even international writers, it is clearly mentioned maybe Indira Gandhi wanted to take revenge for whatever happened during this period, where Pakistan used Operation Gibraltar to cut off Jammu and Kashmir from India. So the notes are in front of you. That is, as I already mentioned to you, one of the advantages of having this Loom software. So you can note down run of Kutch, very, very, very important. So even we will try to, when we come offline, we will try to mark it on the map. So you know that five marker, that is for the maps. And sometimes they ask where is run of Kutch, so you need to mark in Gujarat. So this the next slide, and this is the agreement that was signed after the ceasefire. Again, it was UN mandated. That means even again United Nations intervened in 1965 war that led to ceasefire between India and Pakistan. and this actually formalized that line of control between India and Pakistan. Tashkent Agreement 1966. Just make a note of it again. Very important as far as your examination is concerned. Tashkent, that was a part of USSR, erstwhile USSR. Now it's a part of Uzbekistan. And you must be remembering the name of Lal Bahadur Shastri. This who comes in one marker, who was the India's prime minister when this Tashkent agreement was signed. And many students make the mistake of writing Nehru's name, Jawaharlal Nehru, but he died in 1964. So if you know the whole sequence, you will be able to answer it. 1966, it was the Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri who signed this treaty with Ayub Khan. So you can make out this time there was kind of Ayub Khan. We know that he instituted an kind of a coup in Pakistan. So whenever there is army rule, they're always looking for a conflict with India, isn't it? And that's how they can actually kind of overwhelm their constitution. Every time, whenever there was army rule in Pakistan, they instigated some border dispute with India. So similarly, what Indian politicians are doing, even Pakistani army general, they have kept on doing it so that they can sustain army rule in Pakistan. Somehow, the people are emotionally charged and they give a kind of a de facto legitimacy to the army rule. So this is what happened over there, and they signed the treaty, definitely mediated by USSR. And you know that there is a movie made on that Tashkent files. If I'm not wrong, you can watch it during these vacations. And Lal Bahadur Shastri died. It was quite controversial. Like still, people do not know whether it was only an air crash or it was an assassination. So this is what happened, and they signed the treaty, Tashkent Agreement. That was the end of this war, 1965. It is also known as Second Kashmir War, even though it started in Rann of Kutch. And one of the reason you must be thinking, I did not even mention what is Rann of Kutch. This is because of the Sir Creek line, Sircreek. You know, to write with this, it will be very hard. You can see that, isn't it? I need to move till I get my stylus pen. So, Sir Creek, I will try to mention over here. So, Creek, even though this E doesn't look like E, it looks like Ravan's nose, but it is E. So, Sir Creek line, that is separating Sindh with this Kutch. So Kutch is with India, Sindh is with Pakistan. Just imagine Sindh is with Pakistan, which actually gave name to India. So Sindhu River that gave name to India. It is the majorly it is with Pakistan right now. So Sir Creek line that goes between Sindh and Kutch, and Pakistan claims control over even Kutch. They feel when this Sir Creek, I think 1914, it was signed under British India. So they said that treaty says this Sindh and Kutch belongs to Pakistan. So that's why they always have, just like in Jammu and Kashmir, they always lay claim on this part run of Kutch in Gujarat. So that's why this war, and it ended with the Tashkent Agreement 1966 between Lal Bahadur Shastri and Pakistani President Ayub Khan. So this we can move to the next one, 1971. I don't think I need to repeat each and everything. You know that the names are very like very familiar over here. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, isn't it? You know that he won the election, but he was not given. Sorry, Mujibur Rehman. He won the election, and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was made the prime minister of Pakistan, and they refused the power to Sheikh Mujibur Rehman, who had the majority in the parliamentary elections. We already discussed this in Bangladeshi crisis of 1971. So this part I was talking about when Indira Gandhi thought of taking revenge of this. We already discussed Operation Gibraltar from Pakistan. This is views of some writers. I don't know it may be true or not, but that's what they thought. So this time, for the first time, rather, there was a war between India and Pakistan, and Jammu and Kashmir was completely out of focus. And it is not because of Jammu and Kashmir. So it was because of the East Pakistan, and India um, gave aid, financial and military aid to Bangladesh. Any refugees, they came to India and they settled down in India, and still differently there is CA or whatever having NRC. One of the major reasons because of those like refugees. So I do not want to get into any controversy by commenting on that. I'm just letting you know there is a relation between what is happening right now and 1971, when millions of Bangladeshi refugees entered into Indian border, and it was actually political asylum by Indira Gandhi government, because they helped India in a way. If you see that this Bahini army or whatever of Bangladesh, they helped India to divide Pakistan into two parts now. Isn't one became Bangladesh and one is Pakistan. So somehow it is giving some balance of power over there, because otherwise Pakistan was on either side of India, east and west. Now it is only on the west side. We don't have to care about the eastern part because it has become Bangladesh. So that's why those refugees were given entry into India. So this is what happened, and India helped them out. We already talked about this when we were discussing Bangladesh crisis. And India definitely had coordinated land, air, and sea assault on East Pakistan. This, I hope you remember. Even Hitler used to have the same kind of strategy. We discussed so many times in class also, blitzkrieg, isn't it? He used to use everything together, attack by land, air, and sea. So it did not take much time because of the strategy used by Indira Gandhi. Only 13 days, one of the shortest war in the history of humankind. You know, one of the wars that we discussed about was Six-Day War between Israel and Arab world, and this is another one of the shortest versions of war, only 13 days. So East Pakistan becomes the independent country of Bangladesh, December 6, 1971, isn't it? So this we already discussed in the previous subtopic. So this is the agreement signed, Shimla Agreement between India and Pakistan. Shimla Agreement. I think many of the Pakistani soldiers actually surrendered around 90,000. Like it never happened. I think after Second World War, first time it is happening. Such huge number of soldiers are surrendering to their opposite party. Anyhow, this is what happened, and Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, they signed an agreement, and that was a big face loss for even Ayub Khan. You remember that, isn't it? And he has to give power to his next army general. So that we discussed in the subtopic of Pakistan. So please do not read any topics in complete isolation. So try to understand, whenever there was border conflict with India during this time, it was majorly because of the army rule. Some army general was in power, and there was some dispute within Pakistan. Domestic dispute was there that escalated into a bigger war between India and Pakistan. As I give the example of Bangladesh crisis that led to war between India and Pakistan. So that is the agreement they signed, Simla agreement. Please do remember this. This comes in even one marker. So as I told you before, now this after this Simla agreement, they had a new line of control that was formalized by the previous 1965 war, LOC, because now Pakistan itself has been divided into Bangladesh and Pakistan. So they had a new line of control, 1971. This takes us to we already discussed all the wars, isn't it? 1947, 48, 65, 1971, and one war that is very, and to that we will discuss it later. And you know that 1974, India had its first detonation of nuclear device. And why this is mentioned in between? Because just see the year, isn't it? So we just can't jump into Kargil war. So Smiling Buddha was the name, secret name given by India to their nuclear test. And the reason was very obvious. India and Kashmiri state government, they affirmed, like somehow they signed a treaty, and according to that they affirmed their loyalty to Indian Union. But Pakistan completely rejected this accord between India and Kashmiri state government. You know that under Article 370, because they had some autonomy at that time. Right now it is not possible, but at that time they sign a treaty with Indian government, central government. So I feel this is just to as a threat to Pakistan. Indira Gandhi went ahead with this smiling Buddha for a detonation of nuclear weapon. So somehow she's trying to threaten Pakistan because they did never agreed with the integration of Kashmir with India. But India called it a peaceful nuclear explosive. It will keep on coming PNE, isn't it? Like we call it PNE. Again, I will try my hand in just scripting that. I hope, yeah, PNE. So India kept on claiming that they always had this peaceful nuclear explosion, not actually violent. They only wanted to generate energy from that nuclear energy. So 1974, that further deteriorated relation between India and Pakistan. So this we know very well. 1998, isn't it? I discussed in the like a few minutes before how India detonated their second nuclear device in Pokhran, and Pakistan followed the suit, and they also had within a few days they also had their nuclear detonation in Chagai Hills. This is a part of Balochistan that is controlled by Pakistan. Chagai Hills. So both countries they actually celebrated detonation of this in nuclear devices, but later there were many sanctions from European Union and also from um, USA that affected them badly economically. So again, you must be thinking why we are talking about this. As I told you, why India and Pakistan conflict is so critical. That is because of all these nuclear devices that they have detonated, and by this time they had the uh, kind of missiles also which can carry this nuclear weapons, and that's why it became so critical. And while India was helped by Russia, and Pakistan was helped by China, so that's why this conflict has taken an international dimension. So this is Kargil war, very recent, means not so recent. I'm just letting you know. You must be knowing a lot about that. So Kargil war, you know that Pakistan occupied some territory in Siachen, and India sent under Vajpayee's government. At that time, also BJP was ruling, and they sent their army and they reoccupied all the areas that was like some few patches of land over you know that Siachen, one of the highest or the highest what you say in battle spot for spot in the world, and India won this war, Kargil war, but even India lost many of their soldiers in this war, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee was prime minister. Again, why I'm repeating the name of the prime minister? Many times they ask in the one marker, who was the prime minister during Kargil war. Same thing, Shimla agreement, who signed. So you should be able to answer that. It is not always asked in a descriptive question. So after this war, they had this Agra summit between Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Nawaz Sharif. So that actually concluded this war, or they signed the treaty, just like Shimla agreement we talked about, Tashkent agreement and all. So here we are talking about an agreement that is, I think, Agra summit. So as far as India is concerned, I think they lost around maybe 1,000 um, soldiers, and Pakistan, which claimed lost only 4,000. It was much more than that. That was actually acknowledged by Nawaz Sharif later. So this was the last war. You don't have to go into deep into whatever happened. Like just write something about some areas in Jammu and Kashmir, like Siachen. It was taken by Pakistani army, and India sent its army once they came to know that they are in occupation of that area. So India won this war, and they signed this Agra summit. Rather, they met in Agra summit, Nawaz Sharif and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And see, some important points over here you can just note down, because before this war, Kargil war, India and Pakistan were somehow coming close to each other. But after this war, again, that fissures were created between these two countries. As I told you, it was on Indian side of LOC, line of control, that again insurgency by Pakistan that led to this full-fledged war in Kargil. So the last war that we to mention over here. Thanks for watching this video. And this time, I think definitely I need some feedback. How is the sound, and whether it is audible or not. Again, as I was told, if it is not audible, you need to use headphone. That is the only way you can like you will be able to hear it properly. So once this you start watching this video again and again, that is advantage. Like PPT is there, you can make notes out of it. What can be converted into one marker and six marker. Six marker question is very obvious, like India and Pakistan relation. Sometimes they ask India and Pakistan conflict, where you just need to mention the four conflicts that we already mentioned, and with few like Mumbai attacks and all, you can always mention that insurgency in Kashmir, Pulwama attack, definitely you can mention that. And when it comes to India and Pakistan relation, you can always mention about the water dispute when Indus water treaty was signed, isn't it? And I think we discussed tons about that, how this is one of the longest living treaty between India and Pakistan. This was, and it was definitely mediated by World Bank. So it is still not breached by either India or Pakistan. So there is definitely water dispute. So when they asked about the India-Pakistan relation, you mention about the water dispute also. But when it is only about this India and Pakistan conflict, you can limit your answer to these four conflicts. That will suffice, and definitely Pulwama attack and all that depends upon you. And in the concluding points, maybe you can mention. So thanks a lot, and have a nice day. Thank you. If any feedback, please get back to me through Eduflex. Thanks a lot.